Hey everyone. So in this video I'm going to go over some visual scripting, and that's one way to make code using basic building blocks. It's basically like building blocks for kids on Cronus Pro, which is a software for the Cronus Max that you have. Now at the moment my Cronus Max is actually plugged in to my computer, so I'm going to quickly demonstrate. As you can see on my screen, there's my Cronus Max plugged in to my computer, and on the right side you have my Xbox One controller plugged in to my Cronus Max. So I'm going to be using this just to demonstrate how to test your script. Now I'm going to open my Cronus Max or Cronus Pro software opened up here. So one way to do this, to make a script, is to just go and I'm going to delete this right here. So you just go and select one of the pre-made scripts. So as you can see on the left side of my screen, there's a bunch of pre-made scripts, like for a button swap on a controller, or a double jump, or a drop shot. So depending on which game you're playing, you'll understand what these scripts mean, and you can also Google what these scripts mean. But I'm going to do a real simple one, and this is pretty intuitive. It's a button swap. So I'm just going to select any of these. Swap PS4 R1 with PS4 R2. So that's pretty straightforward. You're swapping the R1 trigger with the R2 trigger. Now when you make this swap, you also want to do the reverse swap so that both buttons are switched, because if you swap only one way, that everything will be a little messed up. So the reverse swap would be to swap PS4 L1 with PS4 L2. Sorry, I misspoke a bit. You actually don't need to do the reverse swap. It's automatically swapped. They're just swapping two different buttons. They're swapping the right triggers, R1 and R2, and L1 and L2, just to clarify. Now what you want to do here is, once you have this script written, or the script selected, you can actually make edits. So this part is a building block, the PS4 R1, so that's basically an entry. And in order to change that entry, you just go to the top left here and select Input Output Entries. I'm going to click on that, and I'm actually going to take out the PS4 R1, and since I'm going to actually use Xbox One, I'm going to switch everything to Xbox One. As you can see, I'm going to be demonstrating this with an Xbox One controller. So I'm going to take this out, delete, PS4 R2, delete, PS4 L1, delete, and PS4 L2, delete. And input output entries, I'm going to switch to an Xbox One. And I'm going to copy and paste this over and over. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to swap the right trigger and A in this example. So swap PS4 right trigger with A there. And I'm going to say left trigger with B button. You don't have to do two swaps, you can just do one swap, but we're just going to do this in this example. Now, the next step in this process is you want to go to compiler at the top of your screen, and you want to switch this from visual, so right now this is a visual building block system, and you want to switch it to a GPC script, which is the code that you typically see if you see programmers code. So there. Now I switched from the visual, which is, if you want to switch back and forth, it's at the bottom of your screen. GPC compiler's over here, and visual scripting's right beside it. So if I want to go back to my visual, I can go over here, or I can go to my GPC compiler right beside it to edit the code. Okay. Now, this is the code that you just written. Main is basically saying this is the main part of the code. It's not entirely necessary to understand all this stuff. And then you're swapping this with that. Okay. No, sorry, you're swapping these two and those two. I'm gonna zoom in so it's a little easier to see. As you can see, the code says you're gonna swap. It's a little good to understand what it's actually saying here. You're swapping Xbox One right trigger and A, and you're also gonna swap Xbox One left trigger and B. Okay. Now that you've done your visual GPC scripting, your visual scripting, convert it into a GPC script, which is right over here. Now you actually want to test this code before you actually put it into the game. So you go to your compiler again, and you click build and run. Now, on the left side of my screen, here, you have what you're actually putting into the controller. And on the right side of my screen is what's coming out. So I'm going to go to Xbox One for output. See, you want to make sure the output is the correct controller, and the input is Xbox One. Okay, so theoretically, when I click right trigger, on the left side, on the input, it should be right trigger, and on the right side, it should be the A button. So let's see what happens. Perfect. As you can see, I'm holding down the right trigger, but the game registers an A button. Let's see what happens when I click the left trigger. As you can see, the B button pops up. There. So now as you can see, both buttons have been switched, the right trigger in A and the left trigger in B. This is a general idea of one script that you can do where you start in visual scripting, then you turn that visual script into an actual GPC script so you can put it into your controller, and finally you would test that script before putting it into your actual game. Good luck.